Alright guys, what's happening? Got a bunch of knives on the table today. Gonna have a little discussion. This is not really like a review video or anything. What this is just kind of talking about the big three. That's what I like to call them. And I'm sure a lot of people know what I'm talking about when I say the big three. For years, I've been in knives for about 6 years now. Which I know compared to some people, when I say into knives, I mean like into knives. Like not, oh, I've had a pocket knife in my pocket for 6 years. Like way longer than that. Like really in, a knife enthusiast, a knife nut, let's call it. And when I first started, I think the first video I did was like a Boker knife back on YouTube back in the day. Then I started getting into production knives, Spyderco, ZT, stuff like that. Eventually, at one point in most knife nuts evolution of their collecting and using and such, their enthusiasm for the hobby, they're going to get into these brands right here, which are Reeve, Strider, Hinderer. So for a long time, back 6 years ago, 5 years ago, even 4 years ago, these were kind of touted as the top production knife manufacturers in the knife game. This was back when Chinese-made companies like Riyadh, Wee, Kaiser didn't really exist. I mean, they probably did exist. They probably were just doing OEM work for Kershaw, stuff like that. Companies that made knives in China, right? Their budget stuff. But back then there wasn't really that too many like high quality Chinese companies. You had US made companies, you had your Spydercos and your Benchmades and your Cold Steels and stuff, but these guys were touted as the top three, the big three, the ones that everyone kind of respected, I guess, the most. And what I want to talk about is that, here it is, quite a few years later, and here they are. They're still here. They're still around. They're still known as some of the top manufacturers in the knife industry, period. They've evolved a little bit. I say a little bit, not a ton. If you look at like the evolution of a Sebenza to an Nkosi, it's a pretty good evolution. People are going to be like, oh, they still use S35. They've been using that for 20 years. Probably not that long because it was S30 before then. But guess what? S35 is fine steel. It works good. It's a good user, everyday carry steel. Is it the best? Of course not, but you don't need M390 for everything, and M390 is not even that great unless it's heat treated right. Heat treat on the S35 for the Sebenzas is actually really good. A lot of people give it crap. Go watch, Super Steel Steve, or is that his name? I'm going to say it wrong. It's actually a new channel that I've kind of just recently started watching. And he did a really good test of, Super Steel Steve. Did a really good test of Spyderco's S35 ABN versus Reeve. And guess what? The Chris Reeve won. And people were like, what? And he was surprised, and he said, there's no way I would have thought that would happen. So guess what? It's a good steel, and it's all about heat treat, and they have perfected it. They know it. I shouldn't say they perfected it, but they've got it down really well, and they know it, and it works good. Strider's used many different steels throughout the years, but look at the SNG. It doesn't look that much. This is an SNG. This is a new batch SNG, just came out. This is in 20 CV, but not much has changed. The only thing, and I've had a few Striders over the years, the only thing that I noticed on this batch is that these blade stops are more rounded. They used to be kind of more squared, almost look like a little peg sticking out. They stuck out farther. This is a fatty grind, by the way, so this has got the same thickness as the SMF. But that's one thing I noticed on the Striders is different. Other than that, they're not much different. I mean, it's still the same design. But guess what? Freaking works, right? Hinderer. Here's an old XM18 here. This is a Gen 2 non-flipper. And he has evolved a little bit, but it took him a long time as far as, when I say evolved, you have the tri-way pivots now. The tri-way pivot is a genius thing. I think it's one of the best things that happen to Hinderers because they actually flip really well. If you want a flipper, you want it to be able to flip well. This is on bearings, and it's stupid smooth. I mean, it's just like drop shut action, and you would never got that. But you also have a fantastic flipping action, right? Hinderers have always been smooth to me on the Teflon, but now you have the options. You have bearings if you want bearings on a flipper. If you want to, use phosphorus bronze, maybe it's a non-flipper and you prefer that, or you want to use the Teflon. I mean, this one on Teflon here is plenty smooth, guys. This is on Teflon washers. It's a Gen 2, and it's smooth. But these guys are still around, and I think they will be. You've seen some differences in Chris Reeve over the years. Like, they changed the pivot on the Amazon. The 21 is still the 21. I still think it's the best Reeve design. I like the Nkosi. I like the Umnum, but I think the 21 is still the best for me. I like it. I prefer it. The Hinderers have changed steels, unlike the Reeve. They've gone up, to the modern M390s, the 20 CVs, so on and so forth. But really, the designs haven't changed a ton. There's been some small adjustments, but they still are around, and they're still making the same good knives they've been making for the last, for a long time. But for me, since I've been in the hobby the last 6 years. But really, like, these are still my favorite brands. Like, after all this time and after the many, many, many knives that have come through this channel and I've reviewed, and even some custom knives, some mid-tech knives, and then, back down. I mean, I would choose these 3 brands over most customs out there. I shouldn't say most customs, but most mid-tech knives. Mid-tech is kind of the weird saying, that phrase that gets thrown around like people know what they're talking about, and really, they don't. But I would still choose them over most high-end Chinese manufacturers. I think Riot makes fantastic knives. I think Wee makes really good knives. Kaiser's a good, more budget-friendly manufacturer. But guess what? I still gravitate back to these companies. It's great that they're made in the U.S. I love that. They have warranties that are freaking awesome. I don't really know about the Strider warranty. Never really had to use it. And it's been a while since I've had a Strider, but I definitely missed it, and I think I'll always have an SNG. I just love the design of the knife. But the Chris Reeve warranty is fantastic. The Hinderer warranty is great. These are purchases that are going to cost you some money, but they're also going to last you forever. I mean, like, there's no reason why it's not a knife you hand. If you keep it, you don't hand it down. I laughed at that because I sell knives a lot. But I've had this Hinderer for a while now, and this one's staying around. It's not going anywhere. It's been resharpened a few times. It's quite used. It gets used more than most of my knives. And this is actually one that Rick sold me personally. So that's got some sentimental value to it. This one is really hard to get. I mean, he just announced 3.5-inch non-flippers with the Tri-Way. And I'm just waiting for him to do 3-inch non-flippers with the Tri-Way, because I still prefer the Tri-Way pivot to this old pivot style. I think it's just gives you variety, it's awesome. But this is totally like just a rambling video, but I just wanted to kind of talk about these manufacturers, and over the course of my knife collecting, knife use, enthusiasm, these guys have stuck around and have always been ones I've fallen back on every single time, especially Chris Reeve over the other two. But I still think everyone that's a big knife, that's into knives, should have tried, or should own, or should, have at least given a Strider a chance, or a Rick Hinderer knife. Hinderer knives, like, lately, I mean, God, people are selling them for so cheap. They're getting more and more affordable. I mean, they're still $425 when you buy them brand new for most of the models, but you can find deals. That's another part of this video, so this is kind of going to shift a little bit into this next part of the video. But the secondary market on Hinderer knives, on Chris Reeve knives, is really where you want to be. People are going to be like, I can't afford a Hinderer, I can't afford a Chris Reeve, I can't afford a Strider. Striders right now are pretty hard to afford, honestly. They're really hard to find, and they're not going for cheap at all. So I get that. But Chris Reeve and I just sold a large Sabenza for like $300. It just had to come back from a spa. It was like literally in brand new condition, because it just returned from the spa, and it was $300. That's a huge discount off of what you would normally pay for large Sabenza, $450, $425-ish. Yeah, $300. You can afford them. If you look around, there's great deals, and do not hesitate to buy a used Chris Reeve knife, or a used Strider, or a used Hinderer, because they're built to last. They're and you can send them in, like that for example, that large Sabenza I sold had just came back from a spa, and I didn't send it in, but the previous owner did, and he wasn't even the original owner. You don't have to be. You can send it in. They make the knife brand new again. It's crazy. Like, so look on the secondary market. Unfortunately, a lot of these were not bought on the secondary market. This was. I paid full price for this because I bought it right from Rick, and it was brand new at the time, so it made sense. This one I got in the secondary market for a really good deal, like $300, I think, maybe around there, and it was around there, and it's a rare unicorn knife right now. The 3-inch non-flipper is really hard to find. Good luck finding one, and I got it for a good price. I see the Sabenzas, the Kosis, Zons. I mean, I got this one for $50 off retail, I think, and it's in brand new condition. And it's the Tanto, best Tanto in the biz. Seriously, that's the best Tanto blade shape you're gonna find. You can find deals all over the place. Look on Facebook on Chris Reeve BST. That is a closed group. I'm not an admin over there, but I'm sure you'll get added if you're into Chris Reeve knives. The Hinderer buy sell trade. There's also a Hinderer buy sell trade on Facebook. Reddit has a good knife buying community. Blade forums. Instagram is not what it used to be. You hashtag knife sale anymore, and you get like 5 billion freaking hits, and half of them aren't even knives. Most of them aren't even knives for sale from people. They're from like manufacturers. It drives me nuts that manufacturers use that hashtag, because unless you're actually selling the freaking knife, don't put that hashtag. Hello? You used to be able to go on Instagram and type in hashtag knife sale, and it was just personal sales from people, and you could deal with people, and that was great. Now you have to sift through a bunch of crap. It's really kind of frustrating, actually. I know I'm not the only knife nut that has that sentiment. So, but anyway, guys. So the point is, these knife companies are still the big three, in my opinion. Yeah, there's a lot of great Chinese manufacturers. I'm not knocking on. You've seen it. I review Wii knives all the time. I think they're great. I think Reate makes fantastic. I mean, the Reate is really up there in manufacturing with these guys. Totally they are. And some people might argue surpass, and I don't think so, but I think they're right up there. But you can afford them, guys. Just look on the secondary market. Look for good deals. They're out there. I sell them from time to time for stupid. Like I said, I just sold a large Spencer for $300. And some guys go, I can't afford a $300 knife. Can you afford a $200 ZT? Then you can afford a $300 freaking Chris Reeve. Yes, you can. You know what I mean? You can if you save up, or if you sell some of your cheaper knives. It's quality over quantity, man. Quality over quantity. These are quality knives that can take an absolute beating and will cut better than most manufacturers. Like Strider, you look at that blade stock and you think, man, there's no way that thing's gonna cut, right? Yeah, it's thin behind the edge, guys. For being a such beefy blade stock, it's thinner behind the edge than a lot of Spydercos. Really? You know what I mean? I think it's thinner behind the edge, or as thin behind the edge as this paramilitary too. So, and it has way thicker blade stock. So don't let that fool you. The Chris Reeve hollow grind is incredibly good. I mean, such a good cutting grind. And their knives are typically, I wish, and this is another rant, and we'll go off on another tangent here, but I wish that more production companies would go thinner behind the edge. Hinderer is a little thick behind the edge. I know he does it for toughness, but you know what? You can get pretty thin behind the edge and still have a tough edge. You really can. That's one thing I like about Strider. Microtech is a good one too. They tend to grind their knives a little thinner behind the edge. It's about edge geometry. It's not just about blade stock. Doesn't really have anything to do with it. You guys are probably gonna look at these and say, "Oh, that's all the thick blade stock." Well, you know what? They all slice. They all cut really well. Especially the small Insingo. The Insingo blade shape is one of my favorites. Such a good slicer. So, anyway, guys, ran over. Just want to come back to the top three. These are the top three manufacturers in my eyes still today. These guys are hard to get, but you know what? They're so worth it. Like, they're just absolute tanks of knives. They're super comfortable in the hand, and they're ground pretty thin for being such a big, hard-use knife, right? And you know what? They're kind of hard to get right now, but they're $450-ish range if you can find one in the secondary market for a good price. Some people are selling for absurd prices. That's another rant. Don't give in to absurd pricing on a hard-to-find knife. Don't do it. Like, what was the Chris Reeve tie lock's been discontinued. People are paying like $1,000 for that. That's ridiculous. Don't do that. The 8015, when it first came out, it was like $160. Now the pre-orders are like $200. Like, where's the $40 price increase? What? You know what I mean? Like, just the blade, these guys are ridiculous. The exclusive paramilitaries and the exclusive shaman and the exclusive Yojimbos, and people are buying them and reselling them for $100+ more. Don't fall into that, man. Don't do it. It doesn't help the knife. It doesn't help the knife market for used knives. But then you get guys. I have a friend on Instagram, Toad Sticker, and on YouTube. He's selling a 3-inch XM18 for $275. That's ridiculous, and it's a tri-way pivot. That's a great freaking deal. I don't know why the values of these knives go all over the place, but you can get a Hinderer for $275. Jump all over that. That is an insanely good price for a knife that will last you forever. So anyway, guys, that's the rant. Just wanted to make a video on this. Still think these are the top 3 manufacturers. It was like that years ago, and I still think it hasn't changed much for me personally. This is my opinion. You may disagree, but I just wanted to get it out there. Alright guys, thanks for watching. See you next time.